What does it mean when someone says they're going to play the devil's advocate? Usually, when we use that phrase, we mean we intend to take the opposite side in an argument. And usually, it's when we don't actually agree with the point we're making. But where does this phrase come from? After all, who would possibly advocate for the devil? It may surprise some people to learn that the title of the devil's advocate actually originated as a colloquial title for a particular office within the Roman Catholic Church. In particular, the devil's advocate was someone who helped determine who should be admitted to the church's list of holy figures, commonly known as saints. The process for sorting out who should be counted among the saints was a process known as canonization, and historically, the devil's advocate had one of the most important voices in the room. The canonization process has evolved a lot over the past 2,000 years. Initially, in the Middle Ages, canonization was done by consensus. Deceased individuals were named saints by the will of the people and were approved by their local bishops rather than the Pope. Their sanctity was determined by their life, virtues, and death, together with accounts of his or her miracles. In the year 1234, Pope Gregory IX moved the authority away from the local bishops and gave Rome exclusive authority to canonize saints. And later, beginning in 1588, the canonization process became much more rigorous. In response to criticisms of the Catholic Church that arose during the Reformation, Pope Sixtus V established the Holy Congregation of Rites, which had as one of its responsibilities to collect, disseminate, and weigh the evidence for future would-be saints. The process involved many steps and could take a long time. In fact, up until the 20th century, the process couldn't officially begin until a 50-year probationary period after the would-be saint's death had passed. After that, the church could look at the candidate for possible sainthood. Since the formalization of this process, it's looked a little something like this. Veneration. The church begins by closely studying the candidate's life and writings. Once the church determines that the individual in question lived a virtuous life, that person would be considered venerated, and the church would be able to move forward with the rest of its process. Beatification. Aside from extraordinary circumstances such as martyrdom, for a candidate to have been considered for canonization, there had to have been clear evidence that they had sent a miracle from heaven. Once the church confirms a single miracle, they identify the candidate as blessed and move on to the next stage of the process. Canonization. Much like the previous step, the final step requires confirmation that the saint had sent a miracle from heaven. Once the church is able to confirm this second miracle, the candidate officially becomes a saint in the church. So, you may find yourself asking, how does the church determine if a miracle is genuine? That's where the devil's advocate comes in. As historian Jacqueline Duffin has calculated, since 1588, approximately 95% of all miracles used in cases for canonization and beatification revolved around curing medical conditions. She observes that this is because in order for a miracle to be considered legitimate, the church has to rule out all other possible explanations, which was to be done with the help of medical experts. The individual who oversaw this investigation was known as the promoter of the faith. This person was responsible for finding other possible explanations for these allegedly miraculous occurrences, and, as a result, became known colloquially as the devil's advocate. As Duffin sums, the office tests the robustness of the evidence for sainthood by raising doubts at every step, finding imperfections in the exemplary life, contesting claims of the postulants, identifying errors in the medical judgment, and unmasking deception or wishful thinking on the part of the postulants or the person who experienced the miracle. If there was any scientific explanation, the church would dismiss the miracle, and the would-be saint's supporters would return to the proverbial drawing board. In short, the devil's advocate defended the church's best interests by protecting it from embarrassing mistakes and preserving the integrity of the faith.